Good morning, guys. This is my senior project on connections between mental and physical health connections. So today I'm going to talk about my internships from last year over the summer and how that led me to my driving question, then my research paper, my product, and then my future plans. So last year at Lahaina Luna, I internshipped at the end of my junior year with their athletic trainers, doing like the track MILs and stuff. And then over the summer, I worked with the football team so that during summer football season, I would be able to be on the field with the athletic trainers and working with them. So what I did with them over the summer was like get ice, work rehab for a lot of the football players, and um, just be there at practice in case they needed anything. So I would be there with my little fanny pack, sunglasses, a hat, and just like be ready for whatever they needed. Like I had mustard in there, band-aids, wrap, all sorts of different things. And then this year, after the fire, I had to transfer, and I was able to continue my internship with Miss Fig. So this is me with the volleyball girls, just sitting on the sidelines. I mainly helped her keep organized. So with her, I helped her keep organized, clean her room because it's so small compared to Lahaina Luna. They have a massive facility with so many things. So it was really interesting working with her on a limited amount of stuff and how she made it all work. She is amazing. She really knows what she's doing and does a great job at it. But along with keeping her organized, I also got to help her student athletes walk through their rehab. So they would come in after school and she would give me like a little list or like walk me through like the basics, and then I would help them show them how to do it. And then of course getting ice as always. And so then that internship led me to my driving question. So what are the ways in which physical health correlates with mental health in developing adolescence? This really interested me because after the fire, a lot of kids were struggling with mental health issues. And so I wanted to understand like how physical fitness helped them because it helped me. Like after the fire, I was struggling a lot. And then I started going back to jujitsu. I started going on walks. I started going to the beach more. And I felt my mental health improve. So I wanted to do research on that and kind of see more the science behind it. And so I researched sports specifically, like school sports and how they affected students in schools. Was it more negative? Was it positive? And then things like affecting things in general affecting mental health in adolescence. So like bullying online, eating disorders, things like that. Like just overall different things like parental marital status, stuff like that. And then after that, I wanted to know how we can prevent these issues from getting like too bad, like to like a serious level. And so with sports and their effect on growing adolescents, I wanted to first understand adolescent growth and development. So there's specific point standards that kids are supposed to reach at a certain age. Like they're supposed to walk by like 3 or something. And it doesn't matter if they don't, but it is like something to keep note on. And so then from there, I went into sports and their positive effect. So this showed me that like being a part of a team in high school can really have a good positive effect on them later on, as it helps them learn how to talk to people, learn how to deal with people, learn how to be on a schedule, learn how to just be responsible for themselves and other people. And then it also helps them learn about physical fitness and like their body, like their sore muscles, what they should eat to be strong for their meet and things like that. And then some negative effects were more like in like injuries, of course, like football, you have concussions, but then also later on in like high school sports, a lot of girls especially suffer from like eating disorders, and a lot of students in general suffer from anxiety before their meet. But that they learn to deal with that, I feel. But there are the ways to minimalize it. And then so strand 2 was things affecting mental health in adolescence. So like injuries, how like say some kids, they would like dislocate their shoulder or sprain their ankle really bad. They would be out all season long, and this could really like have a negative effect on their mental health, because it would just, they would feel like they weren't a part of the thing they used to be a part of. It's just like kids can struggle with that idea of like losing all their opportunities, especially seniors in high school, football, bad injury, can't go to the college or miss the scout opportunity. So that can really have a negative impact on their mental health. And then physical fitness, so like working out and going for runs like outside of a sport is shown to be super good for your mental health. It helps boost certain endorphins and chemicals, and makes neuron connections in your brain, and just is really good for your overall body and also your gut health. Like it just boosts blood flow, and yeah, it's super good for you. And then how body weight affects mental health. So this was more researching on how like your physical weight, how it affects like your confidence, which can lead to anxieties and eating disorders and more mental health issues. And so that was super interesting to learn about how people like learn how people view themselves with their own weight. And body dysmorphia was a huge thing that I learned about. So that was interesting. And then strand 3 was prevention of issues developing. So this is kind of overall, I wanted to know how I could help people, not just through like athletic training, like my own thing, but so some important steps to preventing injuries was preventional rehab. So that's like when you get injured, you go through rehab to like build strength in the muscle. So preventative rehab is just doing that extra strength building before your sport begins, or like before practice, or before your season, because it helps you build up the endurance and the strength so that when you do get injured, it's a lot quicker to get back out there. And so then I also wanted to learn about mental health, like prevention of mental health issues. So steps towards gaining emotional intelligence. So then you can learn more about your own brain, learn more about your own emotions and your own mental health, so that you're prepared and know what you need to do if you do get into a situation where you have anxiety or you're suffering from depression. Like, you know when to reach out, because sometimes it's hard to notice those little signs that people have. And so that led me to my product, which is a little shin splint prevention exercise to build strength in your shins, your ankles, because as I was working with the Fig, or Miss Figueroa, I noticed that kids really don't like doing the rehab, like at all. Like really, they don't like it. So we were thinking, how could we get them strong enough that they just don't really need the rehab as much? And so I made a little shin splint prevention with her help. And this just walks you through 10 basic exercises. It's not going to take more than like half an hour. And it's really supposed to help build muscle. And even if you have shin splints already, it will help like lessen them. It just takes a lot of time. Like, you have to constantly do this like throughout a couple of months to make sure it works. And so so she did this with the track team, but I was talking to the track team. I think she didn't do it before practices. She did it towards the end, which wasn't as helpful, I'm realizing. But I feel like if the kids did it at the beginning of practice, like with some nice yoga in between, I feel like it really could have helped them more. So hopefully she'll do that next season. I am printing this out and laminating it for her so she can keep it up on her wall for them. And yeah, and then so for my future plans, I hope to go to San Diego State University, study kinesiology and pre-physical therapy. And yeah, hopefully this research will help me later on. So thank you guys.
Cool. Okay, so my project's on fashion design. Okay, so my driving question is, what are the strategic steps to launching a successful clothing line in a competitive fashion industry? My inspiration for this, I want to go to fashion school. I am going to fashion school. So I am with the end goal of creating my own brand. And I mean, it's just like a super diluted like area of work. There's so many people who like want to have their own little brand going on, but it's hard to kind of push through and like make yourself seen, especially with like social media. You don't really need to have like an in-person store. It's probably better to not. So I just wanted to investigate what are like 3 things that could help push me forward in that area. So for my paper, I talked about these 3 big strands, which is knowing how trends work and their importance, the power of sustainability, and finding your target audience. So I'm just gonna look into those, talk about them with you guys. So for trends, seasons, this doesn't really apply to Hawaii, but like depending on where you live, it'll vary. So if I'm gonna start a company in New York, I'm not like, it's just knowing to not sell bathing suits in the winter, you know, like knowing to switch what you have in stock in your store to, you know, really target what people need during that time. So again, that doesn't really apply to here, but pretty much anywhere else you live, that will. So making sure you know about that. So then there's micro trends and macro trends. So to kind of put that in perspective, a macro trend would be like, you know, Mr. James is a teacher. He knows cargo pants have come back. Everybody wants to wear cargo pants now. But a micro trend from that macro trend would be like specifically camo cargo pants. You know what I mean? So cargo pants became like a huge big thing again. Cool, everybody buys them. And then from that branches a bunch of like smaller micro trends. One of them was camo cargo pants. So if I own a store, I'm not going to buy mass bulk of something that's going to go out of style in 2 months, which it did. And now anybody that has them. They're not buying more. You don't need more than 1 pair of camo cargo pants. But cargo pants, you'll probably be able to sell year round for at least a year. The time span on a micro trend is like max 3 months, but it's usually like 2 to 3 weeks, but max 3 months. And like a macro trend can be more a year and a half. Okay, so the power of sustainability, this is kind of a weird mind game. It's not really about the environment, unfortunately. People have been severely impacted by social media and like what social media has to say about you. There's a huge company, it's called Shein. A couple of you know what that is. If you don't, it's a gigantic factory in China that comes out with 3,000 new articles of clothing every single day. They do every single micro trend, every macro trend ever, and everything's like $4 because they have no like labor laws put in place or anything, so they can just work these people for hours and hours, and they have tons of material waste. But when Shein first kind of came to light, you know, people with less of a budget for things like clothes, even if you did, you're like drawn to it because they have pretty much everything that you could ever look for. They have like 10,000 things on the page at one time, and they upgrade it every day. So everybody was buying a lot of stuff from there. If you were like on TikTok, you're seeing like hauls and all sorts of stuff. But then later research came out as to, obviously they're not sustainable. They have tons of material waste. Like there are warehouses full of stuff that like micro trend stuff that is out of style that they can't sell anymore. And it's just sitting in a warehouse, and they don't obey labor laws. They don't have any. It's in China. So on social media platforms, people started posting about that. So people who were buying from Shein, if you were still, which they lost a ton of like clientele from that coming out, but if you were still buying from there, you were hiding the fact that you were, like cutting the tags out. They do a lot of like dupes of things that are like designer stuff that you normally see. So it was like sort of easy to hide that you're buying from there. So most people were hiding it because less that they felt bad for buying from the company, but more like the public sort of like stereotype thing that you get. But for me, I've done a couple different fashion projects here in my career at Maui Prep, and I always have tried to focus on like upcycling and sustainability and all my stuff. When I was in like 8th grade, I made like a whole runway show out of everything I like thrifted and like created a bunch of new outfits out of. So that for me is something I really wanted to focus on with my project. So using like natural fabrics. So like organic cotton is obviously more sustainable for our environment than stuff like nylon and stuff like that. It should come back, I don't know. Okay, yeah. So like polyester and nylon, those are like man-made fabrics, so it's not as good. They're not like, if you are gonna have material waste no matter what, you know what I mean? But it is better to do stuff like, yeah, organic cotton, linen, stuff like that that's like made from plants. Obviously, this is more expensive, but there is ways to do it where it'll just be worth it. And for me, I want to do a more high-end brand in the future anyway. So I'm willing to spend the extra money in that area to make it sustainable, because in 2024, you will get more business if you advertise your company as sustainable. Okay, so target audience. Everybody in here, probably most of us, have like a store that we know we can go into, and you're always going to find something you like. Mr. James, what's a store that you like? Any store like Tommy Bahama?
Brooks Brothers.
Okay, so what if Brooks Brothers stopped selling what they normally sell and like completely switched their aesthetic, and they're selling like goth clothing? You go in there to find something you like, you're probably not going to go back again, assuming that you do. Yeah, you're going to be sad. You're going to be mad at the company, and you're probably, next time you need a shirt or something, you're not going to go in there. You know what I mean? So you want to like build credibility like within like your company. You know what I mean? If I go into Urban Outfitters and they have nothing I like anymore, but I always have gone in there being like, I'm going to find something, back to school shopping, whatever it is, I'm probably not going to return. So it's better to pick like a niche of like an aesthetic that you like as a designer, so that you can come out with more stuff like that. And you don't need to like cater to everybody. You know, you're never going to cater to everybody. If you think that you can like diversify your store enough to have something that everyone likes, most likely that's not going to work for you. Having like a smaller group of people who are going to come in year after year and always be like, that's something I like, I need clothes, I'm going there. You're going to make a lot more money, and you have more credibility in your company. You can see that in like Louis Vuitton and stuff like that. In like the first thing that Louis Vuitton came out with was this trunk, and it was like this huge like Louis Vuitton trunk. And now they make like mini trunk purses and stuff like that. Like they keep everything that they have and they pull it out through all the years. Like same with like Jordans. Like the first Jordans came out, the Jordans they came out with last month look the exact same, like literally the exact same. And people are buying them for more money because they just know that they like it. Okay, so for my internship, it was a little bit weird. I did an internship with Bill Kerbox, who has nothing to do with fashion, knows nothing about it. I think he wore the same outfit every single day that we did our internship together. But he is an entrepreneur, and he is helpful in like advertising and how to start your company and kind of creating your plan. So with him, I was able to create this AI business plan. He focuses a lot on AI stuff. So we made this business plan together for my company that's called EcoLux Fashion House. So I don't need to go over all of it, but it has all my business description, my overview, my market analysis, my strategy, my plans, costs, all sorts of stuff like that. And he really helped me do that, which is super helpful for kind of like just putting into perspective what I want to do. And then for my bigger part of my product, I kind of created a line that is EcoLux Fashion House, and I'm going to show it to you. The drawings are not the best, but I tried my very best, so keep your opinions to yourself. So when you are designing a fashion line, the first thing that every designer does is you create a vision board. So I think for a lot of people, when they're first going into fashion, they're like, okay, I'm going to pick a thing and base all my stuff off of that. which is good, but there's like a weird line. So if I chose butterflies, I can't make a dress that just like looks like a butterfly. You're taking things from that. So I did like city street style sort of wear, like clubbing wear, and like suits and like tight bodycon dresses, because those are in style. And I'm going to be going somewhere where I can kind of wear more of that type of stuff. But I also wanted to do my own like take on where I live. So I focused on specifically monstera plants, but just like organic shapes that you would see in plants, but transferring it over to fashion. I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. But this is my vision board. So for my first thing that I created, there's two different types of sketches you do when you create your line. So this would be my croquis drawing, which is what it would look like actually standing on a person. So I struggle with this a little bit because you want to show like how the fabric would move. So if the drawing of the girl, she's standing this way, you got to show how like the dress folds over in that direction. So a lot of mine are standing straight forward because I had a hard time making it shift. These are flats. So this would be if I'm the designer and I'm drawing out a design and then I'm going to send it off to somebody who's going to sew it together, a seamstress or something. Your flat shows where the seams are. So obvious seams, like obviously you're sewing the two ends of the pants together. You don't need to draw those. But any seam that would be in the front, so like this leaf embossing, you draw that on the front and you draw the individual stitching that you would want there. And you do this about 800 times and send it in about 800 times before you get what you want from it. It's kind of hard to see online, but this is all like supposed to be like lace. So I draw here that you would sew the lace on underneath. It's not part of the original garment. You draw the back and you draw where it would like fold over. This is all where it would bunch in the front. So yeah. So this is another one of the ones that I made. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. So this would be like this is like me trying to fit into the trends part of my presentation. So corset tops are like a huge thing right now. So I wanted to make a corset top, but with like the natural shape of plants. So all the cutouts and stuff is me looking at like monstera plants. If you kind of get that, like all the holes and stuff is like what I'm taking from what I see in nature. And my whole thing was like organic lines. I have a lot of straight lines, but like the bottom is not a perfect straight across hem. I want to do like organic lines, like what you would see in nature. So yeah, this was one of them that I made. Oh, what's going on?
I think it's if you kick it.
Probably.
It's very
Yeah. Okay, so this is one of them, and I think this is the last one that I made. But yeah, so that's all of them put together with my vision board, if it will load. Yeah, so this took me a lot of time. Like I did about probably 40 sketches of each thing before I finished it and did all the painting and everything. Everything that you draw has to be colored with gouache, which is this like, it's like watercolor acrylic sort of paint where it's like acrylic paint, you mix it with water and it kind of becomes like a watercolor type base. And that's what you paint everything with. I'm not that good at painting with it yet. So it's kind of hard to show like the dark and light in all my work. But yeah, so like I had a bunch of stuff I did originally that I ended up using. You can't really see that well, but you know what I mean. And I drew for days. So yeah, that's my whole project. So thank you guys.
All right, everyone's done, right? Okay. All right, guys, we got 20 minutes. We gotta stay in here, or you can go hang outside. But we're still in class till 8.